When Thames Head is active, the waters flow south across the field down towards the A433. Here, a series of drains beneath the road constitutes the first crossing of the Thames. Between here and the North Sea, there are 138 bridges which span the main channel of the river, together with 27 tunnels, 6 public ferries, 1 ford and 1 cable car. Because the A433 is built on raised banks, various drains have been required to be built here over the centuries. One of the most interesting was built not primarily for the river, but for the Thames and Severn Canal which ran through the area. An elaborate brick arch carried the road over the canal. However, with the closing of the canal, the arch became largely redundant. In 1962, the road was realigned. The bridge now sits to the side of the road, carrying the adjoining footpath over a storm drain. The A433 was established in 1922, but this section here builds on one of the oldest roads in the country. In AD 43, the Romans invaded Britain with 6 legions. Within 4 years, they had established a temporary frontier, running from the Humber estuary to the Severn estuary. Here, they paused to consolidate their gains. This required a series of forts and watchposts to be built to guard against any incursions. To link them up, the Fosse Way was built to allow the Romans to rapidly move reinforcements to where they were needed, using their mastery of road building. Since the dawn of civilization, roads have been built ad hoc, largely along tracks worn by locals. They would then be linked up wherever they happened to meet, and any long-distance travel could be quite slow and tedious. The Romans took a different approach. They would plan their roads on an empire-wide basis, levelling ground to create flat, straight, wide highways to directly link major sites. The Roman war machine was able to build quickly and efficiently. They would first determine the precise angle to the north between the two cities. They would then mark the route with a series of signal fires to help keep it in a straight line. A device called a groma would be used to mark off the finer stretches between each fire, consisting of 5 weights in a cross pattern. The central weight would ensure that the groma was positioned level. The pole could then be swung round to the desired direction of travel. A person looking along the line formed by the hanging weights could then direct another to place posts in the ground to mark the route. Once the route was fully marked, trenches would be dug on either side to provide drainage and define the boundary. Then the ground could be dug down and levelled to a depth that varied between 10 centimetres and 2 metres. Heavy rubble would be used to create a base. Layers of sand and gravel would then be thrown on top to create a smooth, even surface. In the towns and around crossroads, the road would be topped off with cut stone. In the country, it would simply be topped off with heavy gravel. Where possible, a camber would be built into the road to allow wastewater to run off. A flat section to the edge would allow people to traverse the road on foot. Way stations would be built in at intervals to allow travellers to rest, change horses and resupply as they went. Many settlements sprung up around these way stations, with locals keen to take advantage of the business travellers brought. Within a few years of the Fosse Way being built, the frontier had expanded beyond the area. The Fosse Way defence line was no longer needed, but the road remained, part of an extensive network the Romans built across the province. Initially, these were designed for the rapid movement of troops, but in more peaceful times they were a great boost to trade, allowing large carts of goods to be carried directly between major cities with ease. Wider, more direct, smoother and firmer than traditional trails. They were safer too, since there were few corners for bandits to hide behind. A decent traveller could usually cover around 50 kilometres a day on these roads, but faster times were possible. Julius Caesar once covered a distance of around 1,300 kilometres in the course of 8 days. By AD 150, the Romans had built around 16,000 kilometres of road in Britainia. The Fosse Way was the longest in this network, running from Linden Colonia in the north to Isca dum Nonironum in the south. On the way, it connected with the cities of Lindinus, Aquasulis, Corinium and Veronis. But in the 3rd and 4th centuries, Roman power began to decline, weakened by a series of civil wars and barbarian incursions. Though Britainia escaped the worst of the violence, the economic hit was felt hard. Maintenance on the roads and other monuments happened less and less often. Bit by bit, the networks began to fall apart. The trading networks which depended on them began to break down, and barter returned to the island. At the dawn of the 5th century, the Romans abandoned Britain altogether, hoping to redeploy troops to hold the core provinces. With them gone, the country fragmented. Organised maintenance ceased altogether. The roads became buried beneath layers of muck and soil. Within a century of the Romans going, there is very little evidence that they were ever there. Roads would not be planned on a nationwide basis again until 1920. Nonetheless, many sections of Roman roads remained in use as dirt roads and would continue that way for centuries. Archaeological digs have often revealed multiple generations of surface types beneath modern tarmac, dating all the way back to Roman Britain. Another feature first built by the Romans in this area can be found 600 metres downstream, known as Lyd Well. Most of the year, this is the first visible water on the river, and is marked on many maps as the water source of the Thames. Lyd Well has gone through many readjustments over the centuries. Its current form consists of a small concrete circle with a grate to keep it clear, through which spring water rises to the surface. It is often hard to find in the summer, when water rarely extends above the lip. But in the winter, the flow is much stronger. A flagstone wall surrounds it to restrict the flow, and to create a pool from which locals could draw water. In the Great Drought of 2022, Lyd Well dried up completely for the first time. From here, the Thames continues down to the first distinctive bridge on the river, along with the remains of a notable railway. But that is a subject for next time. Thank you all for watching. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe. And why not leave a comment to help the channel grow? It really does feed the YouTube algorithm and let me know that you are enjoying my videos. If you would like to support the channel further, I now have a Ko-fi page on which you can commission a drawing or a video or even just leave a small donation. I am currently working on the next part of this series, which should be with you reasonably soon. I am also working on the first of my one-off railway videos, which should be with you sooner. In the meantime, why not check out the rest of my videos, or visit my website for a greater look at my drawings. See you there!